Hey everyone, Dominic Lehnert here, and in this video we are going to have a look at APIs. So just a quick disclaimer up front, this video is going to be talking about APIs in a very plain text version. So if you're looking to get some actual technical details of how to implement an API or how to work with an API, this is not the video for you. But if you're just looking to get a simple explanation, a non-technical explanation what an API is and what it does and what it's supposed to do and why we actually have APIs, then you're at the right place. So when we talk about APIs, let's first of all look at what does API actually mean? What does the term API mean? And the term API is the abbreviation for application programming interface. So what does that mean? Let's just look at a very simple example. So if you have communication between two people, so let's say you want to talk to your bank and you want to know what the balance of your account is. So one way you could do that is you could actually call up your bank, take a phone, call up your bank and ask them about your account balance, and they will be able to tell you about the account balance. So this is kind of person-to-person communication, and it's a very free-flowing communication. So you can basically ask whatever you want or whatever comes to mind. You could ask the other person, and the other person has to be able to respond to that based on what they know, what they are allowed to say, and kind of what their past experience is. But it's two people talking to each other, and there's really anything can happen in this communication. So if you now would replace the person at the bank with a computer, and you might replace yourself with a computer, that's basically what an API is. So an API is you have, instead of two people talking to each other, you have two programs talking to each other. So if you want to have two programs talking to each other, instead of a conversation person to person, it has to be very scripted. When you have programs talking to each other, the program can't interpret, or I mean, there is natural language processing and all that kind of stuff, so you can kind of interpret speech, but setting that aside, the program can't just arbitrarily interpret what you're saying. So you can't just talk to a program and just come up with questions while you talk to the program. You have to define a very specific way of asking the questions. So basically you have to script what you can ask the program, so the program knows every time I get kind of these questions, or I have these keywords, someone asks me about these keywords, this is the way the message is structured, I know what to do with it. So if you have two programs talking to each other, you have to have kind of an interface that is predefined. You know exactly, this is what someone can ask of me, this is what they will get back, and that is what an API is. So an API is the interface between two programs. So you can automatically talk between two programs. And this is basically what powers almost anything today. So if we go back to the example, you want to talk to your bank and you want to know from your bank, what's my account balance. One way to do it would be call up the bank and ask the bank teller, can you tell me my account balance? The other way, probably mostly everyone does it today, is you get out your phone, you open the app, your bank app, and you ask the bank app basically, hey, what's my account balance? And then what the bank app does, it asks the bank server, hey, what's the account balance for Dominic, for example, what's his account balance right now? And then the bank server can answer that question and send you back the account balance you have. And that is also done through an API. It's a scripted conversation, if you will, between two programs, between two algorithms that are talking to each other. And one thing that's important to know, once you get into APIs, you will read a lot of API documentations. The reason is that the person that gets the question, basically, that gets the request, is the one that defines what you can ask. So in this case, the bank itself, the bank server, the interface of the bank server that you can talk to is going to define what questions you can ask, how they have to be structured, down to the point where, depending on how the API is designed, it's actually, okay, at this place, there has to be a comma. At this place, there has to be a colon, these kinds of things. So the bank server itself, or the interface, the recipient basically of the question or of the message, is going to define what you can ask. How does the question have to be structured, and what can you expect in return as an answer? And all that gets written out in API documentations. And so as a side note, this is basically how Zapier and Integromat and all these online automation platforms, how these basically work. So what Zapier and Integromat do is they basically, instead of you having to write the code of how do I talk to the API and then what can I expect in return and all these, figuring out these protocols yourself, it basically packages all that in like a nice and neat UI, and then it's just drag and drop with Integromat, for example, and you just have to set a few parameters. You have to say, okay, I want to get a row from my Google Sheet, or I want to add a new, I want to put a new template into MailChimp or stuff like that, or I want to send out an email automatically. But basically what it does in the background is it executes an API command. It's just going to talk to the API of the recipient of your message. So Google Sheets, MailChimp, HubSpot, Stripe, whatever it is, but that's all it does in the end. Yeah, and these Zapier, Integromat, these platforms just make it nice and easy without having to write the code yourself, or with having to write only very little code yourself. So this is, in a nutshell, what an API is, what an API does, how it works. So if you want to help me stay caffeinated, you can just buy me a coffee. I will put the link below so I can keep doing these videos. Also, if you have specific scenarios you want to talk about in your business, or you're trying to decide if you want to use Zapier or Integromat, or you're trying to solve a specific problem in Integromat, or you're trying to get into Integromat, and you want to talk about your situation, what might be the right thing for you, you can also just buy me a coffee. That allows me to schedule some time on my calendar, and we can sit down and I can answer all your questions. Yeah, that's it for today. This was APIs Explained Simply. My name is Dominik Lehnert. Take care and goodbye.